matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 8 o'clock from the world headquarters of GB News. This is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. With a Labour government looming, have the political right in this country lost the argument? Also, should Brits be praying for a Donald Trump victory next year? And what's the key to the perfect Christmas dinner? This is Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Bring your own drinks. The admission is free. Plus, breaking tonight, reaction to the news that Prince Harry was hacked by the Mirror newspaper. On tonight's show, my Friday friends, ITV reality star Junaid Ahmed and fearless political commentator and the Queen of Common Sense, Lynn May. Plus, we've got the Hamiltons tonight, shooting from the hip and discussing all things political. We also have America's feistiest political commentator, Donald Trump's biggest fan, Dr. Carol Lieberman. And live in the studio, king of the TV chefs, Anthony Worrell Thompson. He's going to advise you on how to get lovely, fluffy, crunchy spuds on Christmas Day. My Friday Big Opinion is on the way. It's a lively one. It's the boss of Aviva, who's getting rid of white men from the boardroom. My reaction, it's going to be a very busy hour. It is Friday night. Crack open something cold and fizzy, and I'll see you after the headlines with Sam Francis.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. I'm Sam Francis. The headlines at 8. Prince Harry has said it is a great day for truth and accountability. That's as he was awarded more than £140,000 in damages over phone hacking claims against a tabloid newspaper group. The High Court has ruled that there was extensive phone hacking by the Mirror Group newspapers between 2006 and 2011. In response, the publisher says they apologise unreservedly for any historical wrongdoing. The judge also said that journalists were involved in phone hacking at the time Piers Morgan worked for the Daily Mirror. But the former editor claims he has never hacked a phone or told anyone else to hack a phone. 3 Israeli hostages have been killed after troops misidentified them as a threat and opened fire during their offensive in Gaza. In a statement, the Israeli military said it expresses deep remorse for the tragic event and says the incident is under investigation. Meanwhile, Israel said it will allow up to 200 trucks of aid per day into Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing, a move that's been praised by the Foreign Secretary David Cameron. And here in the UK, 1 million homes could face significant council tax rises as more local authorities face serious gaps in funding. Bradford, Cheshire and Middlesbrough councils have all announced that they're at risk of effective bankruptcy. It comes as a group of 6 Labour mayors called for more emergency funding. They say the government's plan to give £64 billion to councils next year won't cover costs or rising demands. But Rishi Sunak says he has put record funding into local areas like Middlesbrough over the past year.
On average, councils are having about 10% more money to spend this year than they had the year before. Actually, Middlesbrough Council has even more than that, more than the national average. And unfortunately, this is just another example of a Labour-run council that's doing a bad job for its residents, it's mismanaging its finances. And actually, that's an example of what you get when Labour are in charge.
And the grandmother of a British schoolboy who went missing 6 years ago has said that she can't wait to see him when they're reunited. French officials who've been working with the UK police say Alex Batty should be able to return to his family in the UK tomorrow. He went missing in 2017 after going on a family holiday to Spain. Detectives believe that he was abducted by his mother to live an alternative lifestyle abroad. This is GB News across the UK. We're on your TV, in your car, digital radio and on your smart speaker. Now, though, more from Mark.
Isn't Sam Francis a wonderful new addition to GB News? Brilliant stuff. He returns in an hour's time. Well, with the Labour government looming, have the political right in this country lost the argument? I'll be asking the Hamiltons, plus I'll get their reaction to the news that Prince Harry had his phone hacked by the Mirror newspaper. Should they shut down the paper? Also, should Brits be praying for a Donald Trump victory next year? And what's the key to the perfect Christmas dinner? Legendary TV chef Anthony Worrell-Thompson joins us live in the studio. All that plus much more on Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. First, my big opinion. Great news on a Friday. Racism is back, folks. After BBC star Nihal Arthanaika complained that working with so many white producers affected his mental health, the boss of insurance giant Aviva, Amanda Blanc, has said that she has personal sign-off on any white men entering senior management positions. Now, this is a wonderful development. She's so right to reject the idea of a colourblind society. Who wants to listen to that old bigot Martin Luther King with his crazy idea of judging people by the content of their character, not the colour of their skin? Move over, Grandpa. It's 2023 and it's all about segregation, separate spaces for people of colour in American universities and performances for black-only crowds in London theatres. That's progress, folks. No, take my word for it, by abolishing the concept of merit, remember, that silly idea of just working hard and being brilliant at your job, the Aviva boss is definitely on the right side of history. If you're getting open heart surgery, you don't want people who are the best. You want someone that's the product of box ticking as you go into cardiac arrest. Fulfilling a quota is so much more important than being kept alive. And if you have an issue with that and you wind up in an early grave because of nonsensical political correctness, you're the problem. And anyway, who isn't sick of dusty old men like Albert Einstein? Seriously, who needs the theory of relativity? Boring. What about Winston Churchill? What an embarrassment. Toxic masculinity, Lin May. Seriously. And as for those old dinosaurs, the Beatles, cancel the losers now. Fair play to Aviva's Amanda Blanc, whose name ironically translates as white. Getting white men out of the big jobs has been such a resounding success. After all, there's Dame Alison Rose from NatWest. Oh, no, wait, I think she's gone because of the debanking scandal and breaching client confidentiality. Well, don't worry, there's Dame Sharon White, boss of John Lewis. Oh, no, John Lewis have seen their profits collapse and she's leaving. OK, well, what about the world of politics? How about the amazing First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon? Oh, she resigned in disgrace. Well, you can't win them all. The Aviva boss is absolutely right. Too many white people in the boardroom, including her. After all, she who lives by the sword dies by the sword. If Aviva is going to have proper diversity, then she's got to go too, surely. The company would save the reported £5 million a year that they're paying for her, which is what I call white privilege. Anyway, I'm delighted to say I'm not worried about this change in the boardroom. I've insured myself against the danger of being cancelled, OK? In the unlikely event that I no longer tick any woke boxes, I will reinvent myself as Marjorie Dolan. Isn't she gorgeous? Boys, form an orderly queue. I spent all day getting into that Marjorie wig. Now, reaction from my top panel. We have ITV reality star Junaid Ahmed and fearless political commentator and queen of common sense, Lynn May. Lynn, you might have detected my tongue in my cheek there, but your reaction to the news from the Aviva boss, has she got a point?
I don't believe it. I'm sure that she's been misquoted, because how can somebody be filled with such misandry and racism herself? To be anti-men, firstly, and then to be against someone based on the colour of their skin. Isn't that what we're fighting against? You would hope.
Why have some on the left given up this idea of a colourblind society?
I think that they just want to be able to positively discriminate. Now, what I do understand is when we do look at boardrooms and people heading companies, there isn't enough diversity. But I don't think the way to do it is to now come out and say we want to ban white males. How is that progressive at all?
Well, indeed, because the bottom line is you want meritocracy. You're here tonight because you are the best, Junaid. And you don't want to be ticking a box, do you? You want to make sure that the best people are in the top jobs.
100%. And I think we've come so far with diversity as well. I think I love to work in an inclusive environment with all sorts of people from all different nationalities, skin colours, and just embrace that. We're an ever-changing society, and I think we've come so far with it. I don't think it needs to be either one side or not the other side. I think naturally it's an inclusive environment where we're all different people, and that is how it should be.
Most definitely. I mean, I think this will backfire. This is going to upset a lot of people because we need to bring our country and our community together, don't we? We've got to get out of these groups. And if it's the job that's going, you know, in a company like Aviva or Barclays Bank or NatWest, whoever it is, it's got to be the best person, and it would be a fantastic thing if that person is a person of colour, but that shouldn't be the deciding factor.
I mean, I used to work as a bank manager before I turned reality star.
Is that right?
And I think I got the job because I was amazing at my job.
Yeah, most
That's what I'd like to think. And
most definitely.
I loved working in the bank. I worked with all sorts of different people. I progressed very quickly, not just a pretty face, got a very good brain on me as well. And I think it is the right person for the job, regardless of ticking boxes or anything like that. If that person's good for the job, they deserve the opportunity.
Have you still got the power to extend my overdraft?
I don't, unfortunately.
drop you an email. You know when you work in a bank, right? They've got all this cash in there.
Oh, do
they miss the odd £50 note? I don't think they do.
No, we're very audited. Well, I mean, this was about 4 years ago.
But there's so much cash flying around. Do you really think they'd miss a couple of notes going missing?
I mean, everything to each pound is audited.
Did you know any dodgy colleagues when you were in banking?
I didn't, actually. I had a very good team.
I'm glad to hear it.
I actually loved it.
Well, I used to work for Burger King, and I can tell you several people used to steal burgers in their lunch break.
I'm sure they won't miss a few burgers.
Yeah, well, you would hope not, wouldn't you? Listen, how do you see this one going? Because we've got to get it right. In the end, Aviva have been very clear, OK, that they employ the best people.
Yeah.
The person that runs Aviva, the woman that I've been talking about tonight, she says she's not anti-men, she's not anti-white men. She just wants to make sure that at those top-level positions, you have the maximum opportunity of diversity. But so they argue they still get the best people.
Is she saying, has she actually come out and said, I do not want to see white men be employed in top jobs?
What she said is that she has sign-off. She makes sure that she signs off any white males that go into senior positions. That it's got to be a decision that she clears rather than happening underneath her.
But then any other person from any other race is not signed off?
That's the implication.
But this is what doesn't make sense to me as well. I am all for diversity. I would love to see people of all different nationalities in those places, in those positions. But my thing is this. We sometimes forget that we are over 80% white country. And even though we're in London, a lot of us are in London or the big cities, so sometimes we can forget that. So why is it an issue if we happen to see more of white people in those positions based on the reflection of the United Kingdom? As I said, I would love to see more diversity in those top positions, but we have to be realistic about the demographic of the UK.
Most definitely. Well, look, it's a fascinating debate. Lots more to get through. Coming up before 9, what is the key to the perfect Christmas dinner? Anthony Worrell-Thompson joins us in the studio. But first up, with a Labour government looming, have the political right in this country lost the argument? I'll be asking Britain's most famous political double act, the Hamiltons, there next, plus reaction to the breaking news that Prince Harry was hacked by the Mirror newspaper. Should that paper now be shut down? We'll debate that next.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life: your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Can you be quiet? What is this political?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Coming up, Anthony Worrell-Thompson live in the studio with his tips for the perfect Christmas dinner. You won't want to miss it. But first, with Labour consistently ahead of the Tories in the polls, with many predicting an almost existential defeat for Rishi Sunak's party, have the political right lost the argument in this country? Has Britain shifted leftwards? What do you think about that? Well, let's speak to Britain's most famous political double act, the Hamiltons. Christine, of course, is a broadcaster, political commentator and author, and Neil is a former Tory MP and now the leader of the UK Independence Party. Now, Neil, you'll agree that a Labour government is most likely coming. This means the British people want left-wing politics. The right have lost the argument, haven't they?
Well, no, I think what we've seen is that both parties have abandoned their traditional ideological positions and created a vacuum right in the middle of our political system. I mean, there's nothing recognisably conservative about this government at all. They've failed at every level. All the areas where the Tories have been traditionally strong, in people's minds at any rate, control of our borders, control of the public finances, keeping taxes down, and so on. They've failed spectacularly in that department. And of course, Keir Starmer has been doing his best to dump his ideological baggage absolutely everywhere. Who can tell us exactly what a Labour government would do, even on a hot topic like migration? And if in 12 months' time Keir Starmer is faced with the small boats, how on earth is he going to stop them? He's produced no plan whatsoever, and we know that Labour traditionally has no understanding of public finances. Every single Labour government, apart from Harold Wilson's government when Roy Jenkins, who was barely a socialist then, was Chancellor, has ended up in financial catastrophe. I mean, I remember when in 1979 we had the winter of discontent, and even the trade unions were taking on the Labour government then. And the result was that we had 18 years of Thatcherite and sub-Thatcherite government. And it's the abandonment by the Tories of the basic truths which Margaret Thatcher reminded us of that has produced the catastrophe of their position today.
But Neil, I'll come to you in a moment, Christine, but Neil, if the public wants a proper Conservative government, why are they about to vote Labour in their millions?
Well, I don't think that they are. There's no evidence that there's a positive shift of opinion towards Labour. What's happened is that the don't knows, don't cares, and people have given up hope of any major political party providing them with what they want. That's what's happened. The political class collectively has failed this country most spectacularly. Brexit. What have the Tories done with Brexit? Absolutely nothing. First of all, they spent the first couple of years under Theresa May after 2016 trying to undermine it and block it altogether. Then we had a brief interlude of Liz Truss. Then Rishi Sunak has been, Captain Sensible, doing absolutely nothing, which is going to work anyway. So they've handed over to quangos like the Bank of England the responsibility for some of the major decisions like inflation. He's now crowing over halving inflation. The government has no control over inflation whatsoever. They've handed control of monetary policy to the Bank of England. What we need to do is take power back from these technocrats and hand it to the people who represent ordinary voters. And nobody's proposing that apart from UKIP.
Now, Christine, I take Neil's points, but it looks like we're going to have a Labour government. Why will enough people be voting Labour next year to send Keir Starmer into number 10? Why is that happening?
Well, it's a very good question, and goodness knows. But I think you'll probably find there'll be quite a low turnout. What depresses me about basically politics and the whole of the post-war era is that every time Labour gets in, they put forward their agenda, they push through their agenda of socialisation and privatisation, the reverse, nationalisation, etc.
Yeah.
When the Tories get back in, they never, ever turn the ratchet back again. And the only person who's done that is Margaret Thatcher. Other Tory prime ministers, they get in there and they think, OK, we've got the status quo, let's not even try and reverse it. So we've had this creeping socialism, the reason why people aren't going to vote for the Tories is because they're not Tories anymore. And I blame David Cameron for a lot of this. He's got his problems at the moment on this Rwanda bill, and the Tory party is split into all these factions where their great secret weapon always used to be unity. That has gone. And why are they so split? Because an awful lot of Tory MPs are not really Conservatives, they're Social Democrats. And when Cameron was Prime Minister, he got control of the selection process, and constituencies were no longer able to choose who they wanted. They had somebody parachuted in to represent them who was approved by central office. And so they've got a whole load of Social Democrats in the party. And of course, they're not going to want to vote through Conservative measures. So really, the parties can only blame itself. And I think people at the election, I don't know, they've just had enough. They'll vote for change. I don't think Starmer is going to be much of a change because we've had a Social Democratic government for a while. So it'll be very interesting. And of course, what will happen is that every person who is interested in politics will have a look at their own constituency and they'll think, what can I do with my vote to have an impact? We live in a rock-solid Tory seat. If there was one Tory left standing, unfortunately, it would be ours. So there ain't no point in trying to dislodge him. You're not going to do that. But a lot of people are living in marginal seats, and I'm sure there will be analysis when we get nearer to the election which these seats are and who these people are. They are the ones who will have a real difference.
The real tragedy, I think, is that people like Lee Anderson, who does offer a real alternative to the Labour Party, having been in it himself, are going to be the victims of the technocratic globalists who've taken over the Tory party and actually robbed it of any real political meaning. There's maybe 3 or 4 dozen Tory MPs who'd be worth voting for in this coming election. But sadly, they will be swept out with the tide. It'll be nothing to do with their own personal worth whatsoever. Quite the opposite. In fact, they'll be swept out in spite of the value that they bring. And that's what we need to do, actually, is to restore conservatism to the Conservative Party, because they're faced with an alternative, which is just a political vacuum. Keir Starmer stands for nothing. He's a man without any kind of personality or charisma, and whatever political beliefs he had, he's been jettisoning as quickly as he possibly could in a kind of Boston Tea Party of dumping ideological baggage overboard. So the Labour Party are going to find when they get into office that they haven't got any rudder to their own small boat, and so they'll end up on the rocks as quickly as possible.
Listen, you're very, very clear and trenchant in your views. Of course, it's all to play for at the next election, in which UKIP will be participating. More power to you in that endeavour, Neil. Christine, a quick word on Prince Harry. He's been declared, he's been judged to have been a victim of phone hacking by Mirror newspapers. He's received an award of £140,000 in damages. The News of the World was shut down after they were exposed as hacking phones. Should the Mirror be closed down too?
Well, I'm not remotely surprised that this decision has gone in Prince Harry's favour. Can there be anybody who really thought about it, who thought that the Mirror weren't hacking him? Of course they were. Neil and I were the beneficiaries of a nice little cheque, thank you very much, from all that News of the World business. When was it? About 15 years ago or something. So, I mean, if they were hacking us, you're sure as damn they were hacking Harry. Should they be closed down? Well, frankly, why not? Who'd miss them?
It was Rupert Murdoch's decision to close the News of the World, of course. He didn't have to close the newspaper down.
I think that's right. I actually miss it. I think it's a shame that the News of the World has gone. Finally, listen, I don't want to get in trouble with producer Sophia. Yeah, go for it, Christine.
Well, I'm just going to say, I mean, obviously, I don't really mean that. I do believe in a free press, and the more newspapers we have and the more media outlets, thank goodness for GB News, the better. So, no, I mean, I'd like to see the Mirror live to fight another day, but they have to pay for what they've done. And it's undoubtedly, it was plain as a pikestaff, frankly, that they were hacking Harry.
No, I agree, and I totally agree. I think the Mirror should stay. But as you say, they've had their day in court and they've got a major bill to be paying right now. Listen, briefly...
But it's peanuts, Mark. It's peanuts to the Mirror. This is why newspapers know that they can overstep the mark in all sorts of things, because what's 140,000 to them? I know they've got legal bills on top, but it's peanuts.
The legal costs will have been many times the award of damages, but as a practising barrister myself, I can only applaud that.
Too right, too right. Listen, before you go, it's that time of year. Everyone would love to know what the Hamiltons get up to at Christmas. So if it's not rude to ask, do you have plans? Christine, what's happening on the 25th?
We do have plans. We have a wonderful invasion of family. We're going to be 12 in the house for the best part of a week, which is quite a challenge for the main cook. I do have help from others, but basically I'm in charge. We've got 3 children and a baby, so it'll be the most wonderful Christmas. And we do all the traditions that Neil and I grew up with. We have our fairy on top of the tree. We have turkey. We do all the corny Christmas traditions, because I want the young in our family to carry those on. And the only way to do that is to show them how it's done.
And I'm going to self-identify as a child in the hope that Santa's going to leave something for me.
Well, I'm sure his sack is bulging. I wanted to ask you about the cooking. Is it your job to stuff the bird, Neil?
I think. Well, there was a time, but I think I've gone beyond that now.
Stop it!
Family show. Listen, can I just say I've enjoyed so much being on air with both of you this year. You've made a massive contribution to Mark Dolan tonight, Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, and all of the shows on GB News. You're fabulous people, and I wish you a happy Christmas and a happy New Year.
Thank you very much, and the same to you and all the viewers and listeners and listeners.
See you in January.
Not as we say in Wales.
There you go. Be careful with that bird, Neil. Keep your hands steady. Fantastic stuff. Well, look, folks, lots more to come. Anthony Worrell-Thompson live in the studio with his tips for the perfect Christmas dinner. But next, should Brits be praying for a Donald Trump victory next year? Find out why after this. Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Coming up, the brilliant Anthony Worrell-Thompson live in the studio with his tips for the perfect Christmas dinner, how to get those roast potatoes nice and crispy. But first, the latest poll suggests that not only will Donald Trump easily win the nomination to represent the Republicans in next year's presidential elections, but that he would beat Joe Biden. So is a return to the White House inevitable for Donald Trump? And is it a result that us Brits should be praying for? Let's speak to one of America's most compelling political commentators and the woman with the glowing title America's Psychotherapist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Carol, Merry Christmas. Wonderful to have you back on the show. First of all, Donald Trump appears to have momentum. Can he go all the way?
Well, not if the Obama-Biden White House has its way. But yes, he is up in the polls. He is 10 points higher than Biden at this point. But he is in a vicious cycle, because the more he gets, the higher he gets in the polls, the more concerned the White House gets about that, and the more they do to try to stop him. And of course, what they're doing primarily now is lawfare, which is warfare using the courts. And he is, he has so many court cases, you know, it's hard to keep up with them, but they're trying to get him in trouble for various things. Originally there's the case by E. Jean Carroll, who claimed that he raped her in Bergdorf Goodman's, although there's no evidence for that. Then there's the issue of immunity. He's trying to claim presidential immunity, which presidents are supposed to have. And then he's also in court in regard to January 6th. You know, the Democrats would like to call that an insurrection. And then we have Mar-a-Lago. You know, he estimated, or his CPAs, accountants, estimated Mar-a-Lago as being worth $400 to $600 million. This was in 2011. And so now they're trying to say, no, that wouldn't go for that far. And he was just he inflated the value of it to get loans. I mean, really, it was up to the banks to decide whether it was inflated or not. Anyhow, they are coming at him from all angles.
Will they prevail, or do you think that Donald Trump will be able to run for the White House in 2024?
I certainly hope so. You know, actually, though, people are saying that even if he's in a jail cell, they would vote for him. But I hope that he will be on the ballot in 2024. You know, they've done another poll about what Americans are most concerned about. And what they're most concerned about is the economy, as one might, guess. And so Donald Trump has 50% versus Biden's 32% in regard to who would do the best for the economy. And then the other things that Americans are worried about in descending order is immigration, democracy, abortion, Social Security and Medicare, climate change, although it doesn't exist, crime, guns, and then it goes down to smaller things. But, and yes, it's kind of interesting that healthcare, housing and healthcare are 3% and 2%. The Israel-Hamas war is only 2%. That's where that ranks on what Americans are concerned about, which is awful. But anyhow, so all of these things, really, Trump is better at all of these things, particularly the economy. And since that's the number one concern, then yes, that explains, at least in part, why he is gaining votes, gaining points. But what's so interesting, I was saying, is that he's in this vicious cycle, because the more they try to put him down with this lawfare, the more people like him. And that they didn't expect that. They thought, we're going to bring all these cases against him, even criminal cases, and that will make people turn on him. No, that made people respect him all the more. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, indeed, they're turning Donald Trump into a political martyr, and it's going to backfire, isn't it, Carol? Let me bring my pundits in, if I can, Carol. We've got the fantastic Lynn May and Junaid Ahmed. And I want to ask you about Donald Trump in regards to the United Kingdom, Carol, because, as you know, Donald Trump loves this country. He loves America, but he loves Britain, doesn't he? His mother was Scottish, and he has spoken in the past enthusiastically about a US-UK trade deal when he was president. So do you think it's in Britain's national interest for Trump to return to the White House?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and compare it with Biden, who didn't come to a lot of the recent events, in England.
King's coronation.
He said he couldn't fly. Yes. So, yes, of course it would be better for England, the UK, if Trump were elected.
OK, well, Lynn May, what do you think about the idea of Trump return to the White House? Would that be good or bad news for my viewers and listeners here?
I would like to see Trump come back. I understand he says an awful lot of inappropriate things, but does that really affect your day-to-day activity? We can see that over 6 million Americans saw their wages increase under Trump. He, delivered tax reform. He brought industry back to America. He had a lot of positive influence as well from the people that really wanted to see that industry come back to America.
And he didn't start any wars, Lynn May.
Exactly, as well as he was pressured to start a war with Iran, and he decided not to. He targeted the general of Iran instead, which saw thousands and thousands of people actually not die, civilians not die. Under Biden, how many wars? We're constantly seeing international conflict under Biden. Under Trump, it did not happen. We can see that he went to see, in North Korea, Kim Jong-un. He settled him down. What has Biden done? I would like to see him come back.
OK, Junaid, I think you're not such a fan of Donald Trump.
I mean, it will be interesting to know, from the both of them, from everyone what's speaking today, Trump is obviously more of the popular one from the sounds of things, from what people are saying. I mean...
But what do you think? Does he rock your boat?
I mean, personally, for me, I'm very, coming from a reality background to leading a country, I don't personally know, but that's my personal thing. But you hear things, and you hear that he's made a lot of differences compared to Biden. Who knows? Let's wait and see what happens.
Carol, final thoughts from you about 2024. Do you think you'll be celebrating President Donald Trump this time next year?
Well, I hope so, or else I might be moving to the UK.
We'd love to have you.
No, I certainly hope so. You know, it's to be honest. You know, they are so out to get rid of him, and as I was saying, the more popular he gets, the more they increase what they're doing. I worry about his life. I worry about whether they would actually go to the point of hiring a hitman or make someone so crazy about how bad Trump is that someone would shoot him or kill him in some way.
Goodness, God forbid. There you go. Dr. Carol Lieberman suggesting that someone could try to assassinate Donald Trump just to stop him from becoming president. Carol, may I wish you a very Merry Christmas to you and your family. We also love having you on the show and look forward to catching up in 2024.
Thank you. Same to you.
The brilliant Dr. Carol Lieberman. Check out her website. She's on YouTube as well. America's Psychotherapist. Coming up with your guide to the perfect Christmas lunch or dinner, live in the studio, the king of TV chefs, Anthony Worrell Thompson. How do you get the perfect roasties? Anthony has the answer. Next.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only three people you can trust in life: your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Welcome back to Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, and it is just 10 days until Christmas. Many have already ordered their turkey and their spuds, but what is the key to the perfect Christmas meal? Who better to ask than the brilliant restaurateur, one of Britain's best-known TV chefs, Anthony Worrell Thompson. Anthony, great to see you.
You're so flattering, Mark.
I try. It's easy with you. Your reputation precedes you. Can we talk about, my viewers and listeners, how they're going to get it right on the 25th? Structuring the day. Is it important that you cook things in the right order?
Oh, definitely. I think also next week, get going ahead, you know?
Right.
So say you want a puree, say you're going to Swede, it's nice and cheap.
Yeah.
Mix with carrots, cook it in salted water, blend it up with loads of butter. Butter's the key, and a little bit of white pepper. And then you can keep that, cling film it in the fridge. All you got to do is microwave it then on the day. So there's that. Obviously, your spuds can be peeled 2 or 3 days ahead in cold water.
So you have to keep them in water, otherwise they will discolour.
Exactly.
All right. Does that water need to be slightly salted?
Yeah. Ideally, well, salt is certainly when it's cooked, but actually when you're storing it now. Things like you might want to braise red cabbage, that can be done well in advance. You know, a little bit of apple, sultanas, onion.
There isn't much space in the fridge for the spuds, so can they be in water
outside,
in the kitchen or outside?
Yeah, cover it with cling film or foil. It's cold enough, isn't it?
Now, Delia Smith recommended that you can actually roast the potatoes a day in advance and slam them in the oven 10 minutes before you eat them. Would you support that or not?
Well, I love Delia, but no.
It's got to be fresh.
Fresh. Well, the thing is, what you could do on the day before is you could parboil them and then rough them up a bit, a little bit of seasoned flour, toss them in that, and that makes them really crispy on the day. And the thing about roast potatoes, you've got to... Some people have only got one oven, right? I've got several, but one oven. And you roast your turkey. Your turkey's going to take up most of the oven.
Yes.
So the thing is, start them off in a pan. Get all the edges brown in a pan. Have them ready, so when you bring your turkey out to rest, which you should, big turkey's going to take 20 minutes to rest, stick your spuds in very hot oven, and there you got them really nice and hot.
Parboiled, does that mean that they're edible, or are they half-cooked when you parboil?
Half-cooked, about 8 to 10 minutes, maybe 12, depending on what size you want your potatoes.
Any particular variety, Maris Piper, King Edwards?
Yeah, I like the rooster, red rooster, but King Edwards are good. Any of the floury potatoes.
OK, what about the fat? Is it olive oil, is it goose fat, or is it sunflower?
Olive oil if you're some sort of health nut. But personally, good old dripping is great, goose fat is good, mixture of butter and oil can be done.
You actually want saturated fats,
Of course you do. And that's why you rough up the edges of the potato so the fat goes in and makes it really crispy. Inside nice and floury, and, well, I love a roast potato.
And what is the best meat to be cooking if it's a meat-eating household? Is it turkey? Is it goose? Is it lamb?
Well, I mean, Christmas wouldn't be the same without turkey, I think. I know it's only been around since the 30s. It's very new, relatively, that's 30s. Well, we haven't got 30s this year. Anyway, the 30s, 1930s. But to me, Christmas wouldn't be the same without turkey. And I like to get a Kelly Bronze. They're the best turkeys on the market. I mean, just go for free range if possible, rather than a sort of Dolly Parton of the turkey world. You want to go one which is free range, and it won't be so full-breasted. But it's going to have loads of flavour.
So you're not looking for an enhanced model? You're not looking for a Katie Price?
No, you're definitely not.
Oh, it's a Kate Moss, right? Yeah. I'm just checking out Junaid's vital statistics, and I think you'd be perfect for the big day, is all I'm going to say. We'll decide who stuffs you. But listen, what about Brussels sprouts? That's non-negotiable, isn't it, on Christmas Day?
You have to have them... I mean, kids don't like them, but, you know, to be honest, Brussels with some chestnuts. And the thing is, don't make that silly little cross in the bottom of Brussels sprout. Because the water goes into the middle and makes them soggy. Cut them straight across in half, then you can cook them much quicker. Again, you could pre-blanch those. What we call blanch is half-cook them in the morning, plunge them into ice water, and then you can just toss them in a pan, a little bit of bacon, chestnuts, maybe some diced onion, lots of butter. You know.
Well, you've got my mouth salivating. Can the chef drink whilst cooking?
Oh, absolutely. I think the key is also don't go for that morning walk. It's a complete waste of space. You walk on Boxing Day, you don't walk on Christmas Day. There's too much to do. If you've got a gang in the kitchen, delegate. Give them all tasks. You're going to be doing that, you're going to be doing that.
Get someone to peel the spuds.
Absolutely. Work the family. Don't send them off. I used to go think, I'd much rather work on my own and get rid of them, but actually make them useful.
Keith Floyd, who is somebody that we both have great admiration for, a fabulous broadcaster, a decent chef as well in his own right. And in the course of his programmes, he would do these cookery shows on TV, he'd get steadily more trolleyed, wouldn't he?
Yeah, you couldn't really work with Keith after midday.
There you go. That was the rule. But do you think the food gets better? Where's the chef? I mean, drinking in moderation, of course, but a little bit of lubrication as you cook. Does it improve your cookery skills?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gives you a little bit of freedom of the mind. I think, as you say, I always cook with wine, and sometimes I cook with it, sometimes I pour it in there, sometimes I drink it.
That's it. One for the turkey, one for the chef. What about the cost of the Christmas meal? How can we keep that down? Because we know that money's too tight to mention at the moment. What are some good economies to make?
There's a song like that, isn't there?
Well, just a bit. But don't worry, I won't sing. Don't want to lose viewers.
I think the thing is, if you are strapped for cash, there are good deals, especially if you're prepared to gamble a bit and wait for Christmas Eve. It's dangerous.
Because then you get the yellow tickets. You get the yellow ticket, which are absolutely
but also,
brilliant.
there's some very good turkey roasts, just the breast. A lot of people don't want the legs, so you can get a turkey roast like that.
Frozen turkey, yes or no? I mean, obviously, probably ideally not.
Ideally
but again,
not.
They're cheaper, aren't they?
They are cheaper, and also remember, don't try and cook it from frozen. It won't work.
So you've got to
defrost it slowly.
Is there a quick way to defrost something like a turkey?
If you've got some sort of way of sealing it, you can put it into cold water. But otherwise, you've got to give it probably 3 days. A decent-sized turkey, 2 to 3 days in the fridge to defrost.
I guess another economy is to supplement the turkey with things like sausages or perhaps pigs in blankets.
Pigs in blankets, great.
Yeah, because that fills everyone up, doesn't it?
It does, but if you want to be really imaginative, you've got the time, get half pork mince, half sausage meat, a little bit of diced apple, a little bit of diced onion, some sage, make a sausage of that, wrap it in pancetta.
Right.
And then you can roast that whole sausage off, big one like that, and then cut it into chunks and then pan fry it on the day. So that's another thing that can be done ahead.
Pancetta is this cured Italian ham.
Exactly. It's almost like streaky bacon, really.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely delicious, doesn't it? What's happening at the Worrell Thompson household this year?
Well, I haven't got my normal Christmas restaurant. The Greyhound is performing as I'm still a consultant.
Your first year as a free man?
It's almost. I've still got Grill Off the Grate, which is an open Christmas table, open Boxing Day.
In Kew?
In Kew. And that's doing really well. I'm going to Ireland for the first time since the millennium when I've had a Christmas off. So that's going to be great. So I've got my wife, Jo, family over in Ireland, so we're going over there.
Will there be time on Christmas Day for a pint of Guinness in your local?
I shouldn't say this being in Dublin, is it? But I'm more of a southern drinker. So I like the Beamish. And
the Beamish, yeah.
Beamish.
That's a decent drink, let me tell you. And you'll be cooking on the big day, of course.
I will.
You've got no choice. And it's 20, I think you told me.
Approximately 20, yeah.
So that's nothing to you. You could do that in your sleep. Do you ever make mistakes in the kitchen? Surely not.
Never. Of course you do. And you learn from your mistakes. That is the key. Everyone makes mistakes, but that's where you've got to be brave. If you make a mistake, you're not going to do it again.
What's your biggest mistake? The one that you repeated the most?
Or setting fire to things, really. You know, getting things too hot, turning your back on things and up go the flames. So you've got to be careful. What do I do? Puddings. Pastries. I'm awful at pastry.
Well, it's a pain in the backside, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's very fiddly.
You can buy
that's why you have pastry chefs to do
and that's why they sell it in the shops.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But one thing I would recommend, you've still got a week, go and buy yourself a thermopen, which is like a food probe, and you push it in the thickest part of the turkey. You don't have to worry about Delia's 20 minutes a pound and 20 minutes over. You just push this into the thickest part of the turkey. When it reaches 72, it's cooked, it's safe, and then you don't even have to worry about timing.
No, because the danger is to overcook the turkey, isn't it?
Oh, dry breasts are not the best.
Easily done. Well, listen, folks, what are you doing? Are you going to have a Christmas turkey this year, Junaid?
I mean, I'm a little princess. I let everyone do the cooking. I sit back with a face mask and just enjoy myself and get pampered.
That's perfect. Get pampered. I thought you were going to say get something else, get trolleyed.
I mean, all the sausage talk, no, I'll just relax and sit back.
I'm glad to hear it. How about you, Lynn May?
I usually do all the cooking, Caribbean style.
Nice. Great.
Mixed with English. But this year I'm going to be going to a boutique hotel on Richmond Park.
Really?
And get spoiled.
And get spoiled by them. We're not lifting a finger.
Just down the road from Grill Off the Green in Kew, which, let me tell you, is taking bookings this Christmas and into the new year. It is Anthony's top restaurant. And Anthony, next year, are you excited? Are you looking forward to 2024?
I am.
You don't let the grass grow under your feet, do you?
No, absolutely not. You've got to.
You're never
going
to retire.
No, retirement is the end of you.
Yes.
So you've got to keep.
The
going.
wife wouldn't be happy, would she?
I've got to do 3 new things. That's what they tell you after you retire. You've got to. I'm going to learn Tai Chi. I was going to learn the piano, but no, and haven't worked out the other photography. Probably I'm going to try and do.
Well, there you go. You're a talented man. Turn your hand to anything. Tai Chi, I've never eaten that, but I must try it at some point. Anthony Royal-Thompson, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
Happy New
to you,
Year,
Mark.
and thank you for getting our tummies rumbling with your excellent suggestions for the perfect Christmas meal. Brilliant stuff. Now, coming up this weekend on Mark Dolan tonight, the brilliant political commentator Annunciata Rees-Mogg dropping her truth bombs as always. National treasure and top dancer Wayne Sleep. And politics legend Edwina Currie, plus many more. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 11. Next up, Patrick Christie's. Patrick, what have you got for us?
Loads on tonight, Mark. Well, Prince Harry won in court today, but can we forgive him for the way that he's treated our royal family? As police thwart a massive Islamist terror threat in Europe, I asked whether or not we have allowed a Trojan horse into Britain as well as the continent. I'm also going to be talking to the chainsaw landlord, who is looking to clear his name after he allegedly evicted a tenant using a chainsaw. And of course, one of the most mysterious missing person cases of all time, Alex Batty, who was just 11 years old when he went missing, has re-emerged. We're trying to get to the bottom of what happened there with the former Greater Manchester police officer, because that is where he will be repatriated to. All of that and more with Tonya Buxton, Emma Wolf and John Sargent.
Patrick, looking forward to it. Brilliant stuff. Can I just say it's been a really busy show today, a very busy day altogether, and the person holding it all together was producer Sophia, who has worked her socks off and done an amazing job. Thank you to director Ark as well. We are back tomorrow for Mark Dolan tonight with my top pundits, my big opinion and my take at 10. My thanks to the brilliant Lynn May tonight and Junaid Ahmed, and of course the excellent Anthony Worrell-Thompson. I'll see you tomorrow at 9. Patrick is next.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. This weekend will be a cloudy and fairly mild one for many of us, and there will be a lot of dry weather around. However, there is an amber rain warning in force for parts of northwest Scotland through much of Saturday and Sunday. That's because we'll see this string of weather fronts bringing some quite relentless rain throughout the weekend. And we'll see some of that rain throughout Friday night. It'll generally be lighter than it is going to become over the weekend, but it'll still be fairly patchy and persistent. Further south, it should stay dry through much of the night. There could be some drizzle over the high ground in the west, and in the east we could see some clear spells developing, allowing for a slightly cooler start. But elsewhere, it's likely to be a very mild start to the weekend, particularly in northern areas of Scotland. However, here it will be quite a windy and wet day throughout Saturday. We'll see the rain really start to persist into the afternoon. Further south, still staying largely dry but cloudy, and I think it will be a windier day than today out there tomorrow. And temperatures again around 11 or 12 degrees, so on the milder side of things for this time of year. In the far north of Scotland through Sunday, the rain will continue. It turns particularly heavy from Saturday night and will persist all the way through Sunday into Monday as well. So there is an amber warning in force. We could see as much as 200 millimetres of rain, which does bring a risk of landslides. That rain will sink southwards through Monday, and that will allow some cooler air to arrive from the north.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel.